Hey everybody, back with some new content finally. I got myself a new car and I will be doing a series of videos on this thing, just going over my initial thoughts, long-term review, so on and so forth. So, for those of you that can't tell, this is a 2025 Mazda CX70. This is the inline-6 variant, and it is the base model, so this is the preferred trim. And for those that aren't aware of some of the specs, it is a 3.3 liter inline-6 turbo with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. It is a rear-wheel drive bias setup that is all-wheel drive, but under normal conditions, about 90% of the power is sent to the rear wheels, and then as needed, if any slip is detected, it will appropriately send the power to the necessary wheels. So, I just picked this up Monday on Memorial Day, and just about approaching 1,000 miles already. So, spent a good amount of time in this vehicle so far, in the 6 days that I've had it. And just wanted to share some of my thoughts so far, just in the first week of ownership, essentially. So first and foremost, one of the main reasons I chose this platform is the straight 6 turbo setup. So we got a big single turbo here. And you can see the engine, well, it's kind of hard to see, but it is pushed quite far back, obviously, for weight distribution, to get the weight proper, especially since Mazda is known for making driver's vehicles that have great driving dynamics. So with that, initial thoughts on the drivetrain so far. The straight 6 is incredibly smooth. I mean, that's what they're known to be. Very smooth engines with minimal NVH. They sound great, and to be honest, it's been getting great fuel economy. So far I've got about 960 miles on this, 80% highway or so, as we don't do a whole lot of city driving, and so far it has averaged 29 miles a gallon. And that is with me kind of experimenting with driving with the ISTOP system on and off. So for those that don't know, because this is a mild hybrid, it does have auto start stop. Mazda calls it iStop. And it works a little different than most traditional hybrids, and then also just standard ICE vehicles as well. So what's unique about this iStop system is that when you're in certain conditions, obviously the engine has to be warmed up, trans temp has to be warmed up, the defroster can't be on, and there's a few other conditions. When you're coasting, the engine will shut off and it'll use the hybrid system to basically power everything. You'll see the tachometer go down to 0 RPM. And it'll stay like that even under light throttle until you really need the ICE setup to kick back on and give you power. You'll see that iStop engage at traffic lights as well when you come to a stop. And what's unique about how the way Mazda does it is they don't start the vehicle back up using the starter or the hybrid system. They actually use combustion. So when the engine shuts off, the ECU knows exactly what position each cylinder's piston is in, and then it will inject fuel and spark at the appropriate cylinder to start the engine back up. I know this has kind of been an annoyance for a lot of the CX90 and CX70 owners, but honestly, being my first automatic transmission car, I have always been in the habit of watching the traffic lights, so I know when it's my turn to go green. And if you are attentive and not staring at your phone, you can lift off the brake, you know, a second and a half before the light turns green, engine fires up, and you can take off smoothly. I think the majority of the issue people have with this when the engine is turning back on, and maybe the slight delay they get between hitting the gas and being able to take off is just pure inattentiveness. So that's my opinion on that. Again, I haven't noticed, granted it's been just under 1,000 miles, I haven't really noticed much of a difference in gas mileage using ISTOP versus having it off. So time will tell, and we'll see on that. But as of right now, 1,000 miles in, it doesn't really bother me. As far as the driving dynamics go, this is a Mazda. It drives well, it handles well, you can whip it around like a car. Highway on-ramps are incredibly fun, and even back twisty roads for a 200-inch long vehicle that weighs nearly 5,000 pounds, it's very tossable. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, about to roll over when you're taking corners at high speeds, and it's very communicative. You can feel everything that you need to feel, at least from a car enthusiast perspective, through the steering wheel, your feet, the chassis itself. One of the main reasons I bought this, it doesn't feel completely numb and lifeless like most Toyotas and Honda SUVs do, you know, anymore. Especially since Mazda doesn't use a CVT transmission. And one of the things I've noticed, because this vehicle obviously appeals to a broad group of people, both the CX70 and the CX90, as family vehicles. Whether you need a 2 or a 3 row, you're going to choose between the CX90 or the CX70. And what I've noticed is a lot of people that have gotten into the CX70s and 90s are coming from Toyotas, Hondas, Subarus that really aren't driver's vehicles. So they're complaining about feeling bumps through the suspension, feeling the transmission shift. Something I saw on Facebook the other day in one of the CX70 groups was someone complaining that the transmission downshifts as you come to a stop, which kind of blew my mind. It's one of those things, like any normal car that doesn't have a CVT transmission, especially if it's modern, is going to do that. You have to be in the appropriate gear for the speed in case you need to get back on the gas and get out of a situation. And I think a lot of people just have gotten so accustomed to soulless, lifeless vehicles that now that they're driving a vehicle that engages them, gives feedback, they don't know what to do about it. So that's my opinion on that. Anyways, so reason I got this car, obviously I need to be able to fit our 3 dogs in here. We do a lot of road trips, and obviously fitting 3 dogs, all their stuff that they need, plus all our luggage, we needed a big car for that. So as you'll see here, which most of you know, this is just a CX90 with a 3rd row delete. They even kept the original 3rd row cup holders and everything. It's just missing the USB-C ports that would be in the CX90. So plenty of room back here, and you may be wondering, if you followed this channel or if you know me, why I got a big car when Michelle, my fiance, already has a Grand Highlander. Well, fun story on that. The payment on the Grand Highlander was pretty ridiculous. At the time we got it, interest rates were quite high, and she was tired of paying on it. So we actually traded in, got payoff plus a little extra on it, and we're saving essentially on the payment. This payment is a little over $300 less per month than what was on the Grand Highlander. So for the meantime, this is our large vehicle. It's my daily driver, and she is driving a Prius for the time being till we figure out a new car for her. Something bigger than a sedan, but not as big as her Grand Highlander or this vehicle. So with that, couple things that I just wanted to touch on is the pricing and the trim levels for the CX70. So this, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is the base trim. It's the Turbo Preferred. The CX90 does have one lower trim than the 70. They start at the Select. And on the CX90 Select, you do not get heated seats and a couple other things when it comes to the infotainment system and some of the capabilities as far as like software, when it comes to some of the MyDrive modes, all of that. That being said, this is the base 6-cylinder turbo hybrid, or mild hybrid. So it is rated at 280 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. Something interesting that I found out, because I am a car nerd, is I actually have a Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the OBD2 port down here, and I hooked it up to the Torque Pro app. And I took a couple data logs, and something I noticed is at wide open throttle, the ECU is commanding 500 Newton meters of torque. If you convert that to freedom units, that is 369 pound-feet, and that is higher than what Mazda's rating is for this. Now, if you go and look at the dyno charts for these vehicles, it is quite apparent that Mazda is underrating them from the factory. The non-turbo S, so the low output inline 6, is rated at 280 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. And on a all-wheel drive dyno jet, they are putting down about 272 to 275 horsepower to the wheels, and almost 350 pound-feet of torque to the wheels as well. So definitely a good surprise to see. And then for those who choose the high output, the Turbo S Premium or the Turbo S Premium Plus, those are rated at 319 horsepower on 87 octane, 340 horsepower on Premium, and then 369 pound-feet of torque on regardless of what fuel you're using. Looking at the dyno charts for those as well, those are also underrated. So props to Mazda for not shortchanging us and actually giving us more than what they had told us. So I'm impressed with that. So as far as just being a base model, you obviously get hands-free or keyless entry and lock. It has parking sensors. That's something this base model has that our Grand Highlander did not. It has a power moonroof. It's not panoramic, but nothing that I'm missing out on not having a panoramic roof. It does have automatic windshield wipers, LED lighting all around. Those are automatic as well. And then this particular model did come equipped with the tow hitch with a 3,500 pound rating. And my only annoyance with Mazda is the lighting. So let me see if I can get these lights on for you guys. If you don't have a Turbo S model, only this outer portion illuminates. To get the long taillight illumination, you either have to buy a Turbo S model, or you can order the Turbo S inner taillight housings, and they're plug and play, direct swaps. So nothing too complicated. That may be something I do in the future when I have some extra funds around, just because it gives it a cleaner look when the whole back end is illuminated, and I just prefer the way it looks better. And then when it comes to the interior, don't mind the mess. I got a whole bunch of grass and stuff in here, but anyways, for being a base trim, leather seats, they are heated. There's soft touch everywhere. Very few hard plastics in areas that you interact with a lot of the time. So like even the top of the dash is like soft touch injection molded plastic. And then you have leather or some sort of leatherette across the middle of the dash. So very impressed with that. I'd show you the back seats right now, but I have the dog hammock back there, so not really ideal. And then just going over a couple things, like really, this doesn't bother me, but I know it's something Michelle doesn't like, is the storage. The center console cubby area is super shallow. Can't fit a whole lot in here. As a guy, I don't carry a whole lot around, so it doesn't bother me. And then the other complaint we see a lot of is that the cup holders are small. I pretty much just drink coffee, water, and occasionally like teas and sodas, so I have no issues with these fitting in here. But if you're a user of one of those big like Stanley cups or mugs or those Owala things that are ginormous that everybody's using now, those tend to not fit in here. It does have wireless charging standard, works great on my Android phone, iPhone. If you don't have a case that lets the phone sit flat because of the camera bump, those tend to not charge well. But as long as your phone has a case that allows it to sit flat, I've had no issues with the wireless charging. And then something I really appreciate that Mazda's still doing is having actual physical buttons, not having to use a touchscreen to adjust climate, any of that stuff. So that is very nice. And then one of the big complaints for people is whatever you call this command knob thing. People seem to hate it, but it's intuitive. You get used to it. And as long as you're connected to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which this base trim does have wireless for both, if you are using Android Auto or CarPlay, this does turn into a touchscreen when you're in those modes. And then for the actual like Mazda system, if you're going into like the vehicle settings, you do have to use the control knob. Like I said, doesn't bother me, might annoy some people, but it's something that you can get easily used to. You just have to use it, you know, repetition. Other than that, I will stop here for now, and then we will check back with some driving impressions. I'll be mounting a camera up, hustling through some corners, some on-ramps, so you guys can see how it handles. And we're doing our first road trip here coming up tomorrow, so I will post some initial impressions on a long drive, 6 hours one way, and let you guys know how that all went next time I see you. All right, everybody, thanks, bye-bye.